Well, there's a change to the published late film tonight here on BBC One when Marilyn Monroe and Don Murray star in Bus Stop, the bitter-sweet comic tale of a naive cowboy and his love for a nightclub singer who turns out to be a most unwilling object of desire. That's at midnight. And on BBC Two shortly there's film entertainment with a stylish thriller from Hong Kong in which the scholarly hero attempts to unravel a baffling and arcane plot to get to the bottom of the butterfly murders.
It's new, The Boys from the Bush.
It's me, Uncle Reg. Leslie. Oh, right. Look, I'm not Reg. I'm Dennis Tontine. Reg is tied up at the moment, and he asked me to meet you.
So how's business? Well, be better if you want me for a joke.
I've got to meet this Filipino girl. She's come here to marry this... Look, where'd he go? Where'd he go?
I like to use you to buy things for me. What sort of thing?
You stand there, hold that card. If a Filipino girl comes through, you grab her, right? You grab her and hold her there and don't move away. He hasn't paid me yet to realise that. Find him.
Leslie, I hope your relatives aren't into exploitation.
You sure he's the right man?
Perfect. It's what he always was. And ask himself for.
The Boys from the Bush, next Friday at 9:30 on One.
In just over 10 minutes, Rabbi Hugo Gwynn offers some thoughts and reflection about the current crisis in the Middle East in Gulf Vigil. First, we go over to the newsroom and Martin Lewis for the latest news on the situation.
Good evening. President Bush has predicted that Iraq will fail in attempts to weaken the international coalition against it by attacking Israel. He said yesterday's Scud missile hits on Israel were an act of terror which had no military significance whatsoever. Tonight, Egypt's ambassador to Washington said his country would stay in the coalition even if Israel did retaliate. The United States spent much of the day trying to persuade the Israeli government not to hit back, pointing out the growing success of Allied missions to knock out the mobile Scud missile launchers. But the Israeli cabinet appears to be split. The 7 Scud missiles that hit Israel last night slightly injured 12 people. In the meantime, the Allied air assaults on Iraq and Kuwait have continued throughout the day. Of the 7 Scud missiles known to have been fired against Israel last night from mobile launchers in western Iraq, 2 fell on Tel Aviv and 2 on the northern port of Haifa. In Saudi Arabia, a Scud missile fired against the Allies' airbase at Dhahran was brought down by an air defense missile. And the Pentagon says 11 mobile Scud launchers have been tracked down and at least 6 of them destroyed. More Tomahawk cruise missiles have been fired from 2 American warships in the Gulf at targets in Iraq, including Baghdad. Giant B-52s have bombed Iraqi ground forces, though the scale of the attack is not known. And the BBC's John Simpson in Baghdad reports B-52s causing great damage around the capital. Airfields and air defense systems continue to be attacked by British and Saudi Arabian tornadoes, now joined by a squadron of Italian tornadoes. The Defense Secretary Tom King said significant damage had been done to Iraqi nuclear, biological and chemical installations. After the Iraqi Scud missile attacks against Israel in early hours of this morning, there was another alert in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem tonight. People put on gas masks and took shelter as the sirens sounded. Israeli radio reported a rocket attack, but later an army spokesman said it had been a false alarm.
We were passing the walls of the old city of Jerusalem when the air raid siren was sounded. Immediately, Israel radio instructed everyone to get to their homes and stay in sealed rooms in case of chemical attack. Tonight is the eve of Shabbat, the Jewish holy day, and families were sitting down to their evening meal as the alert came. Everyone was later to hear with relief that it had been a false alarm. This was the remains of a house in Tel Aviv after this morning's missile attacks. Miraculously, only 7 people were hurt. In Tel Aviv, hospitals had been well prepared. The injured from the Scud attacks were treated quickly. Several of the victims had panicked and injected themselves with atropine, fearing that they had inhaled gas. This was what remained of one of the missiles which landed on residential apartments in Tel Aviv's northern suburbs. A family of 4, including 2 young girls, were asleep at the time. Like several of the other missiles, the warhead did not explode properly. Soldiers weren't taking any chances as they continued their search this morning for missiles which may not have exploded. Then later today to the issue of retaliation and whether or not Israel's Air Force would strike against Iraq. At a meeting at the Ministry of Defense in Tel Aviv, Prime Minister Shamir decided to hold off and await further developments, accepting American assurances that they would seek to destroy all Iraq's mobile launchers. But ministerial moods and opinions were mixed.
The American government is well aware that if we are attacked, we will retaliate, and we were attacked.
We are facing now the blitz on Israel cities, and it may very well there may very well be another attack tonight. But you notice that so far we're contemplating what we're doing. We haven't jumped knee-jerk, taken out our gun, so to speak, and fired from the hip.
Israel's reputation down the years has not been one of reticence when it comes to battle. It often boasts that preemption in 1967 was the key to winning the war in 6 days. But 24 years on, the Middle East has changed. Israel's great ally America is siding with an Arab alliance against Iraq, and fear of splitting that alliance and being seen to be hungry for war has to be a major factor in Israel's decision to hold back now. If Iraq attacks again, however, it will be a different ballgame, and then Israel's entry into this war would, according to sources here, be inevitable. Michael Macmillan, BBC News, in Jerusalem.
President Bush said he very much appreciated Israel's restraint in not retaliating against last night's attack. In a Pentagon briefing tonight, it was disclosed that another American jet, an A-6 Intruder, had been lost. Senior officers said full air superiority had not yet been achieved, although they were pleased with the results so far. From Washington, Mike Smart reports.
Announcing a 4th American plane lost with another 2 crewmen missing, Pentagon officials said they couldn't rule out reports that some airmen had been captured.
Don't discount anything. We just don't know if there are any American prisoners of war. We're carrying those folks as missing, and we're searching for them.
Search and destroy missions were continuing against Iraqi Scud missile launch sites, said the Lieutenant General, though he gave no further details of success.
You're never satisfied with your effort until you get them all, but we think we're doing pretty well, and as I said, we're searching for them assiduously every way that we can, and as soon as we see one, we attack it.
President Bush, who visited the Pentagon for a detailed briefing, continues to try and persuade Israel not to retaliate for the Scud attacks launched from western Iraq last night. He was on the telephone to the Prime Minister in Israel at the moment warning was given there of another attack today, which didn't materialize. Mr. Bush, though, wouldn't be drawn on the question of retaliation.
Israel is not a participant. Israel is not a combatant. And this man is elected to launch a terroristic attack against the population centers in Israel with no military design whatsoever.
At home, suggested the President, there was a danger of overconfidence following the early military successes in the Gulf.
No one should doubt or question the ultimate success because we will prevail. But I don't want to see us get over